I'm not going to lie to you. That is happening out there is really depressing. What we see from the mortgage industry is that rather than letting this housing bubble collapse, pushing the price of getting a home and maybe even paying it off in 30 years back to where it should be, back to the maybe 2008 and 2009 levels. Instead of that, the banks are prepared to pursue a 60-year and even a 90-year mortgage. They're doing this because they don't care if you're ever able to own your home. And Kelly and I were just talking about how really depressing it is that rather than maybe working your entire adult life to pay off your home, to be able to give your children a paid-for home so that they don't have to go through the same hardships that you did, instead, these banks are instituting a furthering of the mortgage, that it'll be written into the mortgages that if you get a 90-year or a 60-year mortgage, your children can just pick it up for you after you die. That's the future we have before us, and it's something that's really disheartening because not many people are going to be able to prepare for what comes next. This is the largest financial crisis that we have ever faced. As a world, we are so far beyond the ability to come back from the brink that no one even knows what can happen next. We have nuclear war. We have biological contaminants. We have the reality that they have force-fed us nanoparticulate plastic, and now it's showing up in the organs of human beings. We have people who are losing their grasp on reality and they're lashing out at each other. Your cities aren't safe anymore. Your homes aren't safe anymore. You are defending yourself against somebody who tries to come in and hurt you. Now it's your fault that you acted out in violence against this poor, innocent individual. This world is literally falling apart around us, and a lot of people are just barely coming to the terms with the fact that it's not going to get better anytime soon. And that's the depressing part for so many people. The fact that we might see literal roving gangs of rioters like you have in some areas of Canada right now, some areas of Germany, in Switzerland, definitely in France, but and in other countries as well that are undergoing financial crisis events. You have literal roaming gangs of violent individuals. They're knocking people down, stealing their goods. A lot of the predators are doing even worse things that's going to cause those affected individuals, the victims, to undergo decades maybe of traumatic therapy to try to overcome the PTSD that they get from these events. And the governments aren't preparing you. Sure, you have Russia out there, even Japan, telling their people to start building deep underground nuclear bunkers. But what kind of life is it going to be after the mushroom clouds finally drop on our horizon? When you see that ash fall, how many people are going to be pushed that much further beyond their ability to contain their emotions? You're just going to see massive amounts of suicidal tendencies, huge amounts of violence. People aren't going to care. They're not even going to know what's right or what's wrong anymore. And they're not even going to know which way is left, which way is right. They're going to act on inhibitions that have been held back because of judicial concern. There's just so much happening out there. And it's causing my family to definitely increase our assessment of the threats right now. When you go to the store, your threats are increased. When you go to the doctor, you have to be thinking about everything that is discussed and even just walking into the place because maybe the guy before you that walked in there isn't happy with the service that he got, or because of a medication that is cleared by certain government bodies was given to a family member that got harmed by this medication. Who do you think the guy's going to take it out on? It might just be that neighborhood doctor that you walk into their office for a checkup. And so we're entering into this new era, this new understanding of a world without a rule of law, or with less rules of law than what we knew and loved in the, say, 1980s, 1990s. What we're walking into right now blindfolded is to the fact that we are going to see a never before seen amount of people getting hurt. We're going to see people losing their homes because they just can't keep a job. You're going to see people losing their cars. They're downsizing to nothing. The fact that we have governments and corporations taking over your everyday life should show you that the next stage of this is going to be a completely Orwellian, a completely tyrannical rule of law. Look what happened in France. They let all these things basically smolder to the point where there is a revolution of sorts. There is an uprising. You have football leagues out there in the streets with baseball bats trying to keep the people who are doing wrong from doing wrong to them and their family. And then what did the government do? Rather than tamp down the smoldering flames, the government said, well, let's hurry up and enact a new law. And this new law allows them to remotely turn on your camera on your cell phone, remotely turn on your microphone on your cell phone, remotely turn on anything that they have access to through the internet inside of your home. But they say that they're only going to use this in a sort of anti-terrorism way. But the law very clearly states that it can be used against any potential criminal activity. Well, you going out and, getting in a protest, maybe even a peaceful protest, is a potential criminal activity. And so we have this tyranny that is coming down the line. You have Russia, and what's happening there right now is scarier to me than it has been since the beginning of this entire conflict, because Russia has been nudged and pushed like an animal so that it almost has no chance of surviving left without using nuclear or biological weapons. That's a position that puts fear into so many people across the world because they don't know what to do when that happens. In fact, what would you do? Do you have any clear and concise plan for if Russia or Ukraine uses a nuclear weapon of some type right now? What sort of plans would you enact? I can almost guarantee that 95% of the people watching would continue going about their daily life until the government keeps on raising the acceptable level of radiation that you're exposed to, if it's not, of course, a huge world-ending type of event. They would just keep raising that level of radiation that you're exposed to, allowable radiation exposure. People would go to work, they'd still be calling the call centers, walking through Walmart. Sure, that's just a weird mole on me. Yes, my lymph nodes are a little swollen. Oh, well, maybe I just don't feel sick. Yeah, I threw up a little bit of blood, but hey, you got to make that mortgage payment. And that's how we would continue. Now, the government knows this. And so they're going to use it to their advantage. And look at how they've taken advantage of everybody over the course of the last duration of this emergency. Ever since 2019 turned into 2020, and they started using different tools in the economy and different things that were happening in biology to affect the populace. Well, government officials, politicians, they have made more money in these last couple of years than they have in the last 10 years. They traded while you stayed home, while they told you that you were forced to stay home. They traded your life, and now they're treating us like the pawns that we truly are. We are, according to them, non-player characters. To be a player character in their world, you have to have enough money or enough power that you actually mean something. Now, sure, there's people who are going to be pushed to their brink, that they become a temporary objective, if you think of it like a video game. Well, you might think that that's a non-player character, but if you're in an aggro zone, well, if you attack that character or if you do something, well, they're going to turn red and they're going to attack you. And that's what we see happening with all these acts of violence across the USA. People are literally losing their minds. They're taking their, what should be just self-defense tools, what have become kinetic projectile tools, and they're just going ham. They're going to town on anybody and everybody. Oh, you didn't like what was happening at that birthday party? Blast it up. Oh, you didn't like how that cashier didn't ask you if you wanted your receipt? Blast it up. And that's the mindset that people are being pushed to, because we are at the brink of no return. And what I mean by that is that so many people are right now either wholly or partially dependent on some sort of chemical additive to maintain any sort of normalcy, or they are past that point and they're addicted to or require like an SSRI, an antidepressant, an anti-anxiety, a whole bunch of alcohol, some other kind of drug sort. And they require this to even wake up in the morning, do their work, go to sleep, and put it on repeat. Now, we know a lot of people right now who use uppers to get up in the morning and who use downers to get down at night. Sure, they're all prescribed, and so they don't think they're an addict. They don't think they're a junkie. But they are, because they have been conditioned by this chemical pharmaceutical corporate world that if they want to be a functioning member in society, they need to achieve certain goals in their non-player character lifestyle. They need to keep that rent or mortgage payment going. They need to keep paying for that car. Well, you also need car insurance, renter's insurance, homeowner's insurance. You need health insurance. You should also have children. Your children need to be in school, and so they need to support the economy by buying new clothes and buying new things every single year. You need to have the utmost and the best cell phone. You better get your kid a laptop that they can work from home on. Now you're just a cog in their machine, but you're not a necessary one. And that's the real problem. People are starting to wake up to the fact that they are no longer a necessary part of the machine. And when you realize how insignificant you are to the greater machine, this isn't how life was supposed to be. This isn't how creation existed and was supposed to push us here. This is a creation of greed and corruption. And so when you realize how insignificant you are to their creation in this corrupt and greedy world, people lose their minds because they realize that except for the people around you, you don't really matter. And that feeling of nothingness is becoming really apparent to a lot of people. And so I want to reach out to you right now and tell you that if you are suffering right now with your mental health, you need to practice the motto. Do your chores, do your prep work, and then have fun. That fun is going to be a recycle unlike anything else that you could experience. Getting out there, and you might say, well, I don't want to. I don't know what fun is. I don't even want to go do those things that I used to find fun. Just go back in your brain and say, you know, I liked doing that as a kid. It could be coloring. Go to the dollar store, get some crayons, get a coloring book, sit down there and start coloring your butt off. I always tell my friends that all my homies have extra chromies, and that's because I think that we should all love each other. No matter how weird, no matter how different, no matter how challenged, no matter how unaccepting the rest of the world might be for you, we all need to get through this together. And if we don't start, and I mean by building groups and talking with family and getting out there and accepting people for who they are and saying, hey, I know you've got problems. I've got problems. I know you're weird. I'm freaking weird too. Let's try to be weird together and have a little bit of fun. Do those things now. Start building those groups. Don't let any of the constructs that society puts on you stop you from having good family, good friends, and good fun. That means if somebody that's 90 years old wants to be your friend, be their friend. Somebody that's 18 years old wants to be your friend, be their friend. You just have to start doing something, whether it's gardening or getting your animals. Everybody on every porch can have a quail, and the people around you, the homeowners association, they don't know that you have an egg producing animal on your porch that you're getting eggs from every day. You just tell them, oh, I don't know, my daughter got this bird and we keep it in a cage. It's our pet. And sure, you might have to adhere to certain pet rules or regulations, but other than that, you have a literal egg-producing animal on your porch that can eat very little. It sure doesn't pump out nice, big, juicy eggs like you're going to get at the store, but what it does lack in quantity, it brings up in quality and the fact that they start laying their eggs in 6 weeks instead of 6 months, like the chickens that you're going to have to start as babies right now with a huge failure rate. Hopefully you get a good one. Hopefully it's of a good breed that it starts laying its eggs and then it stops in a year or two or just starts to slow down. So everybody needs to start doing these prepping things. You need to start doing these survivalism things. Kelly and I were just talking with a friend last night about going out and going camping soon. I said, well, hey, they were like, well, we're intimidated. We don't have any camping stuff. I've never spent a night out camping. I said, don't worry about it. What we have is basically a basic all the way to advanced level of gear. The basic is a $40 pop-up tent. I'm sure you've seen them. You just open it and it pops up and it turns into a tent. Is it going to survive a huge seasonal storm? No. Is it going to survive 2 feet of snow on top? No. But we're talking about getting out there and not being afraid of the weather anymore. We're talking about getting out there and learning how to cook your own food from some staple ingredients, maybe even doing a little bit of foraging, hunting, fishing, foraging. These are the things that got us to this point in life, that got us to where we are today, that we have allowed corporations and governments to take over so much of our life that we don't even know what to do with our tomorrow. They're poisoning the planet. Look at Fukushima. They just got given the green light to dump huge massive amounts of radioactive waste and water back into the ocean. Why? Because they allowed government bodies to raise the level of acceptable radiation that they can disease our planet with. And then they're yelling at you because you want to drive a truck. Now, don't get me wrong. The most efficient things might be scooters. I don't know. I'm not here to debate that. What I am telling you is that they're going to do the worst in history. They're going to ruin us and then blame it on you. But there comes a time of revolution. And that time is coming soon. And so the more self-defense tools you have, the more survival know-how you have, the more ability to move around, evacuate if you need to, run away from a fight or run to one that you have, the more prepared you're going to be. And that's your preps. It might be your fun if you institute a little bit of imaginative survival running into your daily life. You just have to start, guys. This is a really serious time for you. And I have a lot of passion for this because I want each one of you. I don't care where you are, who you are, what your ethnicity is. I don't care what your beliefs are. I don't care anything about you except you as another human being. I want you to have the chance to survive what's coming. So please get started. Thank you for being here with us today and every day. As we look at the brink of disaster, we peel ourselves back a little bit and we do what we can with what we have right now to get ready. From my family to yours, please stay safe and keep watch. This week's Full Spectrum News is brought to us by you, all of our members on Patreon. I want to thank you for everything that you do for my family and for this community. Leave a comment, share the video, like it, subscribe to the channel. If you're watching it somewhere else, come watch us on YouTube at Full Spectrum Survival. Most of all, stay safe and good luck. We're going to need it.